Okay, activity checklist. If you would like to use one of these, and I do recommend it, please remember there's a lot of moving parts. First thing you have to have set out is to set up your settings. Set up the settings. Well done. In the course. Under course settings, turn on completion tracking. I've got yes and yes. Save and display. In each of the activities or resources, you need to turn on the activity completion. That way the activity checklist can go, aha, it's done. So for example, under H5P, scroll down to activity completion, and I've got this as a student must receive a grade. Therefore, the student does it, gets a 1 or a 10, doesn't matter, it's ticked off. In the forum, again on the settings, this one's a little bit different. Let's change that to show activity as complete when conditions are met. And what I like about this one is you turn these bottom 3 on and you say the students must give 5 replies, must create 2 discussions, and must post 5, whatever. And this information needs to be included in your description. Then the actual activity checklist, I've already set up one. Please use the same settings the first time. That way you can see how it works. In the future, you may want to play, but at this point, please use the same settings. Users can add their own information. No. Add their own comments to the checklist. No, you have students writing all kinds of things. Student and teacher. This is not really about what they can click and do. This is more about what they do, and it's automatically done as opposed to you having to write things. Add due dates to the calendar. You can if you want to. Teachers can add comments. Yes, I think this is kind of useful, but not especially. Maximum grade. Are you going to give a grade to the checklist? I'm not sure why that is important. It may be in some cases. Email when checklist is complete. No, I don't think so. In case your courses are not set up completely to do this and there's some sort of clash between your email server and Moodle, if there is that clash, that can cause some really big problems. So no, unless you're really sure. Show course modules and checklists in the current section is the one that I choose. So that means that just things in this section will appear, and then you can choose not to include them or not as you go along. I'll show you in a second. Check off, yes, and then you can override if you wish to, and lock teacher marks, no, so you can change them later on. Save and display. Let me show you what you see when students do things. This is set up to only show test students because I've got separate groups on. So let's view progress first so we can see what's seen. The test group, we can see the test student 5 has done lots of good work. The other students, not so wonderful. You can change this to show a progress bar. You can also edit the checks. This is where the teacher part comes in, where you can go, you know what? Show full details. Let's change the student to, in fact, I've done the work, everything's okay. And then we save here. Here we go. You can also choose how to show the students. This means that you can do them alphabetically or whatever turns up, and you can change the order so you can see what you're trying to see more easily. You can, of course, change your groups as well. Edit the checklist. You may decide that 8 and 9 are optional and therefore not as important, and these checks will become grayed out. If you decide that you don't want to include something, check this first box, and therefore you hide 6 and 7. The editing, this button here changes the text color for you alone. Hide is the same as this button here. This plus to insert a new item from a different place, you can add a URL, but this becomes very complicated, and I suggest for the first time you avoid this one. And this is simply a link to lesson 9 or to lesson 8. So you can go to those activities and have a look. Plus you get access to the settings. Let's go back to view progress. One last thing. Should a student not have done something, you can click on the student's name. It will take you to their profile, and you can message them and say, hey, exercise 4 needs to be done in the next 5 minutes. One last thing, you can interact with a student's progress. You can add comments. This was the comment thing we said before, although they're not especially big. Again, I like this. There's a lot of setup involved and there's a lot of moving parts. And first few times there were many difficulties. So please try it out a few times with a few simple items. Remember that resources are only view. Once they view it, even though they may not have read it, it's still ticked off. Quizzes and things you can set up for the grade. Again, setting up a grade adds another level of difficulty. Go simple first. I hope that helps.